Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Sonia Mather, and what I want to talk to you about today is really something without which I wouldn't be here. And that is something I feel is really important for anyone who's embarking on a journey with chronic illness to master, and that is acceptance. So before I talk about what we're going to talk about today, I wanted to just say one thing. Whatever you hear on today's vlog or future vlogs is really my own opinion, based on my own life experiences with my chronic illness, which happens to be young onset Parkinson's disease. Your own illness and experience will determine what you feel is relevant from what I say. So take what you think you will use and leave the rest behind. So as I mentioned to you today, what I wanted to talk to you today was about acceptance. Now this may seem like a very easy concept, and it may be for some of you, but for me, it took a better part of a decade before I actually began to accept this disease. What do I mean by that? Well, you see, my diagnosis came at a time which was rather inconvenient. I was in my late 20s, had just had my first child, had just started a new practice in family medicine, and this really wasn't a time where I felt I could deal with a diagnosis like young onset Parkinson's disease. So I dove headfirst into my life, busied myself with busyness, ignored the symptoms as best I could, went to cursory appointments, took my medications as needed, but really kind of shelved that diagnosis and put it in the back of my mind. And I continued on like this for, well, like I said, a better part of a decade. But then two things happened. The first thing that happened was I began to see myself in the mirror a little bit more and began to recognize that I was changing into a person that I really wasn't happy with. I used to experience joy before my diagnosis and wasn't feeling that anymore. Yet I should. I had a beautiful family, a beautiful home, a supportive husband, a supportive social circle, and really was living a life that was far blessed beyond what I deserved. Yet at the same time, I didn't feel that. I didn't feel the joy anymore. I rarely laughed anymore, and that began to bother me. The second thing that happened was that box I put on that shelf in the back of my mind, well, that began to overflow. Meaning the symptoms were becoming much more apparent, much more readily noticeable, much more difficult to manage and to keep in the back of my mind. The symptoms became the forefront of my existence, interfering with my daily living. And because I wasn't taking care of myself, because I'd shelved it in the back of my mind and tried to ignore it, it became much more interruptive into my daily life. So I began to recognize that I had to change. I had to change in order to live an optimal life. And that meant changing my perspective. Understanding that this was going to be part of my life, whether I wanted to or not, because it was an incurable and still is an incurable illness. And in order to optimize my quality of life, I really had to address it, had to bring that box from the shelf and put it in front of me, unpack it, and learn to deal with the symptoms. So this is where that true acceptance comes in. So when I say true acceptance, I'm not talking about the intellectual acceptance. I had that back at the very beginning. After all, as a physician, I did recognize that these symptoms were probably Parkinson's disease. I recognized that I would be in for a long road. I could see my prognosis. I could see the treatment that I would require in the future and the symptoms and side effects that I would suffer. So that intellectual acceptance was there from the beginning. But what I'm talking about is true emotional acceptance. And that true emotional acceptance, as I said, was far greater lesson for me to learn. And when I say acceptance, I'm also not meaning complacency. I'm not talking about saying, okay, I've got the disease, lay down and just wait for defeat. No, I'm talking about the true acceptance, the type of emotional acceptance that allows you to move forward, to move beyond your diagnosis, to move beyond your disease, to take ownership of your disease, which then will allow you to take actions that you need in order to optimize your quality of life. That, to me, is true acceptance. That level of acceptance is really important for you to reach. You have to understand that you can't outrun your diagnosis or other challenges that you face for very long. You have to get to the point where you begin to recognize that maybe the diagnosis is not within your control, but how you face the challenges that diagnosis brings into your life is really yours to determine. And that is really important for you as you embark on this journey with chronic illness and live successfully despite the disease. So thank you everyone for taking a few moments to listen to me today, and I hope you found something relevant that you may be able to take into your own life. If you'd like to know about future vlogs that I plan on doing, then please click the subscription or the notification below. As well, my social media links are below. And I would ask that if you have any topics that you want me to cover, any issues that you would like me to address, please leave those in the comment section below. And please remember to do whatever you need to do in order to thrive, not just survive with your disease. Thank you.